Today is December 2nd, 2023. Michael Cook speaking. It's currently 10:15 p.m. Making this video to talk about a concept that I was just talking about in an audio recording, audio log. Then I decided to make a video about it. I made a number of videos talking about this idea of the 7 deadly sins and the 7 heavenly virtues. Haven't really gone into great depth about every single one of them. I'm still not ready to do that quite yet. But one of the things I wanted to talk about is how a lot of people think that they have free will, and a lot of other people think that everything is predetermined or destined. And who really knows what the case is, but everybody has their own opinion about stuff. And what often gets glossed over is that sometimes people share an opinion. They don't have their own opinion, they have a shared opinion with other people. And further to that point, very few people seem to think that there's a larger consciousness that's controlling every single one of us, all of our decisions and everything. Maybe some people do believe that. What I'm talking about specifically is this concept of, everybody driving around, all these businesses in the distance over there. It's Clifton Park Center in the distance. You got the Hilton Garden Inn straight ahead. You got Chick-fil-A right across the street, Clifton Park Center. I don't know if the video is going to make out the signage or whatever. And then you got the gas station, you got Dunkin' Donuts here, and you got plenty of other businesses down there. You got Bank of America straight ahead, Wendy's over there, and other businesses over there. You got Market 32 way in the distance behind these buildings and stuff. Right, our economy relies on this concept of people having jobs and then people earning capital, and they're not the same thing. They're two very different things. So the average everyday person, they're going to have a job. They may even have a career. A career, I wouldn't exactly say that a job and a career are the same exact thing. They may have overlapping qualities and such, and they may be describing things in a rather loose manner. But when I think of a career, I think about somebody that has put a lot of time and effort into studying a particular field of expertise. And whether that career is somebody doing something that they're passionate about, or whether it is something that they're just doing to pay their bills and stuff. Our society has a lot of people that do jobs and they have careers, or maybe in some cases the capitalists, the people who have a hell of a lot of money, they'll start a bunch of companies now, like Elon Musk. Maybe I should talk about Elon Musk really quickly. The other day, he was having an interview with, I think his name is James Sorkin or something, from the New York Post, or not the New York Post, the New York Times, or Anthony Sorkin, I don't know, I don't remember his name. Anyway, he's talking about how advertisers were saying they're not going to advertise on X, and the reporter's saying, so you're not going to, they're going to stop advertising on the X platform. And he's like, they should stop. And then Elon Musk says they're going to try to blackmail me with money, or blackmail me with advertising, or blackmail me with money, go fuck yourself. That's what he said. And it's been on the news and in social media in general, all across the board, right? The dude is a free speech absolutionist. And what that means is that this concept of how our economy gets along and everything, it's at odds with the idea of free speech. So a bunch of companies, they're boycotting the X platform, and this is going to cause some problems for X, but it's also the backlash is going to go both ways. A bunch of people are looking to cancel their Disney Plus membership, their Paramount Plus membership, and a bunch of other things. And I'm sort of getting away from the original concept that I wanted to talk about, but you know, if I haven't made it apparent yet, I am a big fan of Elon Musk, his work. You know, making a refillable rocket that lands itself, you know, the Falcon 9, and then now with Starship, you know, that's pretty cool. You know, NASA wasn't able to build anything quite like it in its entire existence, and you know, with this idea of the reusable rocket that can land itself, it's going to it reduces the cost of sending things into space. And then there's the Starlink satellite, the internet, which, you know, there's no fiber optics cables within view here, but you know, fiber optic cables, they're controlled by corporations that have deep wallets, particularly Verizon. And I think Google maintains some ownership of that to some extent in town here, or in New York State, or wherever. I'm not entirely certain about that, but yeah. And then you got like the local Spectrum, which is Charter Communications, and it's going to be a little bit of difficulty hearing me right now as I'm being passed by a whole bunch of cars and stuff, but you know, I'm still tangenting still, but I'm going to circle around to a point here. Like all these power lines and fiber optic cables and telephone poles, they're aging infrastructure. The idea of sending things into space, like the Starlink satellite, the internet connection for Starlink, and then you know, the refillable rockets, and then they also had like the Cybertruck release the other day. And a lot of people seem to be pretty impressed with the Cybertruck. I am, for one. You know, like, the thing is a lot of people are resisting this change. A lot of people are resisting the idea of adopting like electric vehicles and then using the power infrastructure, you know, plug it in to charge their cars and stuff. But what do you see in the distance over here, or what, back like there where I was before? The gas stations. So within the next 50 years, these gas stations, they're going to have a lot of problems getting refilled. Oil is rapidly declining in quantity on a daily basis, and each of these gas stations has a truck that delivers gas to it in order to, like, you know, provide gasoline to all these cars that are driving around. You know, and a lot of people, they think that it's a hoax, that climate change isn't real, or global warming, or whatever. But I think the case can definitely be made that sometimes what happens is some guy in the 80s came out with this formula for gasoline that extended its range by about 10 times. So a car that was getting about 10 miles a gallon with this added formula, it was able to get 100 miles a gallon. And then the oil and gas companies, like, I don't know, they acquired the formula and then they had the guy killed or whatever. I'm not entirely certain of that entire story, but a lot of people find that hard to believe, but I don't. I know that a lot of people lie. I know that a lot of people do shady business dealings. And one of the things that Elon Musk said in that particular interview that I specified earlier is, like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he's more concerned about the principle of goodness rather than the perceptions of it, right? And that's just it. That's what the First Amendment is all about. It's supposed to be the knife that carves right through the bullshit that people say to each other on a daily basis. So, like, when I see a lot of stuff on YouTube, what I'm seeing is, like, a bunch of people that are very friendly. They're not using foul language or anything like that. It's very sanitized, and it's very reminiscent of what's going on the news and broadcast media and radio. And what I'm left with is that a lot of people, they don't realize that the First Amendment provides people protections so that they can say profanities in many instances. But, like, if you try to get a job at any place or whatever, if you start saying profanities or vulgarities, you're going to get yourself fired pretty quickly. You want to know why? It's because, like, the idea of using some of these curse words, it provides a way to cut through the bullshit. And if the rich people lobby the government and the politicians in order to establish control mechanisms with the FCC, and what they'll do is what George Carlin talked about. The FCC decided all on its own that radio and television were not subjected to the protections or the provisions of the First Amendment of the Constitution. I'd like to say that again because it sounds vaguely important.
The FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, decided all by itself that radio and television were the only two parts of American life not protected by the free speech provisions of the First Amendment to the Constitution. I'd like to repeat that because it sounds vaguely important. The FCC, an appointed body, not elected, answerable only to the president, decided on its own that radio and television were the only two parts of American life not protected by the First Amendment to the Constitution.
It's from his 1988 special. I've, like, indicated that in other logs, whether video or audio. But it's a pretty powerful statement. What it says is that, if you want to be considered a decent human being, you can't say anything that's too honest. It's got to have just enough bullshit in it so that people don't feel like they're being threatened or, like, stressed out or told to fuck off or whatever. And like, you'll notice that this is rampant all throughout society. You're not going to find a lot of people that are willing to go against the societal expectations of, like, you're not allowed to swear. I think that the idea there is that Elon Musk swore on CNBC Live the FCC is going to probably has already fined them for him saying foul language on live broadcast television. Like, why doesn't it happen more often? Well, it's because, like, you know, rich people lobbying with the FCC, lobbying with the politicians and the FCC in order to establish controls so that they could dictate what is allowable in broadcast and what isn't. And, you know, That's just it. It takes power away from people is what I'm getting at. It takes power from every individual citizen to like speak honestly about how they really feel. Right? If you're not going around threatening to hurt or kill people, you should be allowed to say whatever the fuck you want to in any context. So if like I want to go into like a certain business and then a manager tries to bullshit me about a particular situation, I can say, no, look, I'm calling you out on your bullshit. I know you're lying to me. I used to run a retail store. I know how to do your job in addition to your boss's job. Right? This is what I have to put up with on a lot of, in many cases. And, I'm getting pretty far away from the thing that I really wanted to talk about. But the conclusion that, the connection that I wanted to make is that, Elon Musk bought X so that he could restore this idea of free speech on the internet. What happens when everybody has this sanitized mentality? Well, it causes people to be able to be okay with the way things are. So if certain people get wrongly accused of things, or if people lie a lot, or they waste a lot of shit, or they throw a lot of goods or things away, and what happens is that certain people get what they want, and everyone else gets to eat a dick. And in a country where people have the right to freely express themselves, it seems like a fucking contradiction. That's what I'm getting at. So when Elon Musk says, go fuck yourself to some of these company executives, I find that to be a resounding success of, upholding free speech. He was, people said that he was supporting anti-Semitic commentary, but that's not what he was doing. What he was doing was basically similar to what Noam Chomsky did. Some guy, French author, wrote a book talking about the Holocaust and denying it and everything. And Noam Chomsky caught a lot of flack for defending his ability to do that, because some people were like, you were defending the author of this. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure that the video is still going. You were defending this guy who wrote this book about how the Holocaust didn't exist. And Noam Chomsky's like, no, I wasn't defending the guy for his content. I was defending the guy for it's his right to be able to say what the hell he wants, to express himself. And a lot of people get it really twisted, because you're not allowed to go around freely expressing yourself about something that's false or fucked up. No, that's the idea behind people being able to say stuff, right? You get a really strong look at who's wrong and who's not. And then if people aren't talking about stuff, then you're not going to hear when and where certain people are just adamantly fucking wrong, or obviously wrong. But you get this society where they have to watch what they say in order to not offend certain people, because they want to be liked by the people that have resources and control, and they're gonna tell a lot of white lies in order to make more friends. That's what our society prioritizes, unfortunately. Now, take a step back from all that. Sometimes you get a diamond in the rough, where you get situations where people will actually be pretty honest. You're seeing a lot of that on YouTube. You're seeing a lot of it on TikTok and Facebook and everything. People are starting to open up and be very honest and direct about things that they're seeing or observing, right? But the content that is being prioritized is stuff that is fucking sanitized. So, not that I'm trying to critique some of the authors that are doing this, but every single video that Michael Stevens makes for Vsauce, he has never even ever once sworn in any of his videos. In fact, he had an interview with Joe Rogan, and when Joe Rogan swore during the interview, you could see the pained look on Michael Stevens' face. He's like, man, I'm not going to be able to use that. I'm not going to be able to use this interview, and the kids aren't going to be able to watch this interview. right? The language for the kids and stuff. Right? There's a lot of content on YouTube that directly appeals to kids, and that's fine. But the thing is the kids are going to grow up at some point, and they're going to know that the world is a very unfair place to a lot of people. A lot of people get marginalized, and then society teaches like the kids that like, hey, that dude's an outcast, or those people are outcasts and they're fucking losers and they never did anything with their life or whatever. Yeah, our society teaches our kids like how to prioritize who's got access to resources and who doesn't. And there's a fucking problem with that, because it causes like people to think that Elon Musk made a decision by cutting ties with advertisers that were trying to blackmail him. Is going to cause the kids to think that people don't go around blackmailing people in order to get them to shut the hell up and strong arm them into doing certain things that they want to have done. And the whole entire time, what is protecting some of these companies or agencies is how they dance around with very well written vocabulary that sounds very good. Formal speaking is what I'm getting at. So back to the original concept that I wanted to talk about. Now, a lot of people don't see it like this at all, but there's probably a larger consciousness that like is controlling every single one of our actions and inactions and what we think or what we say, right? And you see a lot of things in society that don't make a hell of a lot of sense, but people just accept it as it is because they're taught that those things are normal or okay, right? So like, go look at any business around. How much food does any business throw away on a weekly or monthly basis? How much food does a grocery store throw away on a regular basis? How much product is created and put on a fucking store shelf and then sold, and then the rest of it just goes to waste? How much time and effort goes into certain things and it just goes to waste? How many people put their entire lives into things and then they get screwed over and then they go to waste? How many kids are born and then they go to enlist in the military and they fight in a war for like the rich people that are fighting each other in other countries and stuff, and then they wind up getting themselves killed or whatever. A lot of things go to waste. So like I started to pan out and look at this bigger picture of all this stuff, right? A while back. A lot of people don't really have any self-control. They think they have self-control, but they're just doing what society programmed them to do. And in some cases, like their family and friends, like dictate and manage like the decisions that they make. A lot of people, they base their entire knowledge or experience on this planet around what other people's expectations are, rather than what they think they should do or what they feel like doing. The case isn't consistent where everybody does this, but a lot of people do this. A lot of people will be like embarrassed to talk about like what's really on their mind. You get a lot of kids that grow up and then they come out of the closet after like a number of years, and it's like, why did they wait so long? Well, it's because there's like this idea of a stigma, and this is around a lot of different topics and concepts, right? The stigmas that people have are not talking about things that should be talked about, and the reason that they're not talked about is because like society programs each other. I don't want to talk about that. We don't talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. We shouldn't talk about it. That's ridiculous. And they come up with all these like excuses not to talk about certain things, right? Like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. They say that I'm trying to make a point here. I think I forgot what I was going to say. Well, the point of these programs is to like, get people to restore themselves to sanity. We admitted we were powerless over our addiction and wanted to be restored to sanity, right? So like, in order to go to the program, you have to admit that you're like insane. You're living the life that you're living. It requires you to admit that you have been insane for a while, and that in order to be restored to sanity and get your addiction like controlled or managed, you have to believe that a power greater than yourself could help you do that, rather than teaching people that you alone are going to manage those decisions in order to restore yourself to sanity. Or they don't talk about like what evil son of a bitch made a hell of a lot of money off of like spamming the shit out of society with a bunch of drugs. They don't like to talk about like the drug makers and the drug manufacturers and how they got rich off of stuff. Right? Yeah, a lot of people don't like to talk about that because, you know, it gets into a situation where people will rationalize, well, the people that made the alcohol or the beer or whatever, they were just doing their job. They were just trying to pay their bills and they were just trying to survive. You know, you can't expect everybody to like want to do stuff for free. Yeah, and that whole mentality is fucking stupid. Because what it says is this: it eliminates all the liability or the responsibility on the people making the drugs. That they knew damn well that the things that they were making were going to cause people to get themselves killed or die or hurt other people. But like, they don't talk about that. And like, people will feel like I'm the asshole for bringing that shit up. But you know what? That's why I think that a lot of people are brainwashed. So the idea of people being brainwashed is this simple. Money controls people's actions in many cases. Doesn't always. There's plenty of people on the planet that have a much stronger resolve or control over their life, where they're not like controlled by other people's expectations or money. You know, Elon Musk is a great example of somebody that like has said numerous times. Like, he had an interview with George Faber back in like April, I think. And then he's like, you know, George Faber's like, why do you say so many things on your social media account or whatever? And he's like, well, it's free speech, right? It's a free country. And George Faber's like, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're entitled to, you know, express yourself. But why do it? You know, some of the things you say might, you know, a potential Tesla customer might not agree with you or something like that. And then Elon Musk like looks off for a few seconds and he says, you know, I'm reminded of this scene from The Princess Bride where the man who killed his father confronts him and he says, give me power, give me money, I just don't care. And then George Faber looks at him and he's like, so you just don't care. And then Elon Musk is like, I'll say whatever I want to say, and if the consequence of that is losing money, then so be it. And so a lot of people lack the balls to have that fucking mentality, you know, and it's a sad state of affairs because, like, in the beginning and the end of every argument that where we have a lot of problems in our society, money seems to be the root of all evil, but I don't even believe that that's the case. I think that money just causes people to do things that are fucking stupid. And then, you know, if they're getting paid enough money, then they'll write off their morality. And then they'll come up with the most brilliant ways to explain or rationalize what they're doing. And as long as it sounds good enough, and, you know, other people can agree with it, then this idea of Elon Musk talking about, you know, I'm all about like the truthfulness of the goodness of people in their actions, not in the perceptions of it. You know, basically talking about the interview that he had the other day. And so, like, a lot of people are more concerned about how they are perceived goodness. And that is what our society consists of, is a lot of people that are really concerned about how others perceive them, rather than to be, you know, frank and honest and forward and direct and, you know, not layering a bunch of bullshit on a stack of lies. You know, I'm also reminded of this phrase that Steve Jobs once said. You know, you've baked a very lovely cake, but you've used dog shit for frosting. You know, and that one stuck with me because what that says is like you can make a monumental effort to do something. It'll look great. It'll sound good. But like there'll be one thing that sort of makes the whole entire experience fucking shitty. And that's what I think about this idea of like formalities and then people lying to each other in order to perpetuate their fortunes and stuff, and things going to waste and people going to waste. And you know, I'm like walking around at night making this recording mainly because, well, I don't know, thinking a lot about how this larger consciousness that sort of controls everybody, it's the thing that's controlling everybody. Like in Age of Ultron, Ultron's like, there are no strings on me. But like with a lot of people in our society and elsewhere, they have strings on them, and it's called like money. Or, you know, there might be other motivations that people have. There might be like their family heritage that motivates them. It might be love. It might be jealousy. It might be the 7 deadly sins or the 7 deadly virtues. Everybody does have some different motivations than other people. But to be perfectly reasonable, a lot of people prioritize this concept of putting money before common sense. Or, you know, like if they're making enough money, then and what they're doing is fucking stupid, then all they have to do is just tell a very good lie. And if people believe them, then they'll continue that behavior, and they'll continue to be rewarded for it. George Carlin talks about, you know, the big electron. He's like, woo, woo, woo. You know, it's the big electron. It doesn't reward, doesn't punish, it doesn't judge. It just is. At least for a little while, and then he exits the stage. I think that was his 92 special, right? The big electron. It's probably what George Carlin was referring to with this larger consciousness that kind of has control over everybody's actions and stuff, whether it's God or it's Satan or whatever. I think they're both sides. I think they're two sides of the same coin, good and evil. A lot of people think that God is good and Satan is bad, but I think they're both good and bad because, you know, they say God is either all-knowing or all good. And I think, no, God is not all good because you'll never catch God off guard not knowing what Satan knows. So they both play the part of the bad guy and the good guy from time to time, though I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with like Satan ever being the good guy. The thing is that sometimes you have to allow like the bad guys to win in some instances in order to get like some peace in your life or something. You have to let a bunch of, you know, idiots or morons or bad guys kind of continue to do what they're doing and let them get away with it in order to find peace and in your own life, right? That's what I've observed, is that I have to allow some people to think some of the stupid things that they do and not be like bothered by it. And because if I allow myself to be bothered by everything that bothers me, then I'm just going to be a miserable bastard walking around all the time, you know, saying that everybody is an idiot, because I don't believe that. I think that I think people do have control over stuff, but to what extent? And so like in this particular video, I talked about Elon Musk and these 7 deadly sins and 7 heavenly virtues, which I'm running across the road right now because I don't want to get hit by a car. Thing is a lot of the things that I've said, they're not going to make sense to some people. I know some people are going to try to take what I'm saying out of context or whatever, or they're going to be like, oh, so you're on Team Elon, sticking up for everything that he says or does, you're a fanboy 5000. I don't want to say that, like, everything that he does I agree with, but I do believe in this idea of being a free speech absolutist, or absolutist, not absolutionist. And maybe I don't know if that's the same term. A free speech absolutist. Saw this video a little earlier, and it was some lady on CNN, and this guy's like talking about, like, you know, your opinion is not going to be accepted or whatever. And he's like, you know, the only thing that I believe is the First Amendment and boobs. And the CNN reporters like looking, or like didn't react and immediately, but after a few seconds you see the look on her face like, wait, did he just say what I think he did?
And that had absolutely nothing to do with sports. And they said, look, you can't have this opinion. It's too conservative. We're not going to allow it. I think that's a bad move. I'm a First Amendment absolutist. I believe in only two things completely, the First Amendment and boobs. And so once they made the decision that they were not going to allow a conservative, non-sports related commentary, they couldn't do it either.
Hold on. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly as a woman anchoring the show. Did you say, what did you just say? You believe in the First Amendment and BWBS?
Boobs. Two things that have only never let me down in this entire country's history, the First Amendment and boobs. So those are the only two things I believe in absolutely in the country.
And he's like, and she's like, whoa, hold up. What did you just say? She knows what she heard, but like she's asking for clarification because like the FCC has branded our entire like society to like be brainwashed and to like, you know, they hear the term First Amendment like thrown around, but then they hear boobs right after it and they're gonna freak out about that. Well, you know, I hate to say it, but like our society is like controlled by this idea of formalities. It allows some people to lie a lot in order to perpetuate their fortunes, and allows other people to suffer and to be rolled over and screwed over. And it is a very serious problem. I don't think that it'll ever be resolved, but the more and more that people talk about stuff, and the less hesitation that they have to talk about the things that are in their life, the more people get to hear what's going on, and then they can share, like, oh, that happened to me too, you know, like, I'm glad that we're talking about it because, you know, I thought I was crazy thinking that it would only happen to me. And it's like, if people are hesitant to talk about what's going on, then they're not going to have conversations with one another. That's one of the things that I liked about the NA and AA programs, is that like people get to share some of the things that go on in their lives and stuff. But like I couldn't stand the fact that like every single time that they get together, they have to like repeat a whole bunch of shit and like memorize it. And then, you know, what gets glossed over is that like, you know, the people in those groups, they're helping themselves, but the root problem that caused them to walk into the room to begin with, it hasn't been addressed, and it won't be, because, you know, a lot of people like do shady things, shady, sinister trollmeister type shit in order to perpetuate their fortunes, and this causes other people to wind up being victimized or killed or whatever. And the case varies on a case-by-case basis. But, you know, like when people are indifferent or they're stigmatized about talking about some of these issues, or if they feel like they can't be honest or direct about what's going on in their life, then basically their silence is them being held hostage, is what I'm getting at. They have to walk around on eggshells, hoping that they don't say or do anything that's going to piss off somebody that's, you know, providing them with the source of revenue or income so that they can pay their bills and they can keep the roof over their head, or they can drive around in their car, or they can pay for their groceries and they can pay for their bills and stuff. All these things cause people to be dependent and to be like basically controlled by a larger entity or consciousness. And for what it's worth, I don't think everybody is disconnected from this thing that makes the decisions. Like, I don't think people are making their own, people believe that they're making their own decisions, but the decisions that they wind up making, I'm going to have to expand upon this at some point. I'm not going to do that in this particular video, but that said, end log.